Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy Monday evening to join me. I really appreciate that. I say it every night. I really mean it. So thanks. I hope that you guys are doing really good. Tonight, I want to talk about microplastics and just how much the economy actually doesn't indicate anything at all worthwhile. And so let's start with microplastics. And so, link in the description below to a really awesome video that goes into way um, better depth and greater length into the kind of specifics of just how potentially damaging microplastics can be. I think it's important to know that there is a whole lot of plastic on the surface of this planet, and so much so that it actually is cause for concern. Now, I understand that to anyone or everyone that actually, lives such a chaotic life that they can't really pay attention or choose not to pay attention to the things that actually matter. And I feel like this is one of those things, irony in itself, because we should all be so concerned about microplastics. It impacts absolutely everything, and it will continue to impact our our everyday lives forevermore. And I have a sneaky suspicion that things will only get worse. And so, I mean, when things get worse, things get more expensive and things cost more. And these are all things that tie into our next topic, which is the economy. But we're not going to get too much into that. All I'm saying is that problems benefit nobody other than the people who are the gatekeepers that have solutions to those problems. And ever so quite conveniently, thrive on chaos in a fossil fueled capitalistic world that profit is just so much more important than life. It's much more important than growth, progress, anything at all of substance just does not matter because microplastics are literally running through our veins, some of us more than others. And I say this because they're like endocrine disruptors, right? And so we're currently seeing throughout the modern civilized, developed, and underdeveloped world a staggering drop in fertility rates and the ability to procreate. And so that's kind of how it impacts our future collectively. I'd say that that's a pretty good example of just how disruptive microplastics are becoming. And so there's literally not a thing on the surface of this planet that does not have some trace of a microplastic. And that's bad news for everyone. It truly is. I have always publicly acknowledged the need for big oil and, moreover, the need to properly refine crude oil in its best way so that there is less waste, right? I feel like that's the way to think about it, but that's just not how capitalism works. Capitalism requires problems that need to be solved. And while solving these problems, exorbitant amounts of pretend money must be exchanged. These are the actual de facto rules of the modern world. It's quite scary, honestly. If you think about these things, it's kind of scary. Like honestly, there's no fictional novel that can quite accurately describe the real harm in the modern world. And I feel like it is just, obviously far bigger of a problem to those people who can't afford in any kind of a way to either become educated or about it or just turn a blind eye towards it because there's really not much a working Joe can do as it concerns changing the world and altering the future of plastic consumption and thereby its waste. And so recycling is a sham. In case you thought recycling was a good thing, I gotta tell you that it's not. I mean, depends on what you recycle. Mostly recycling is a sham. Okay, it's just another fraud. It's just another grifting sort of an idea that fossil, big petrochemical oil companies have openly admitted to manufacturing the kind of rhetoric that is in the modern day. If you guys heard of advanced recycling or chemical recycling, recycling in and of itself is very misleading. And there's really no positive end game as it concerns recycling plastics. It's just a zero sum game. It gets you nowhere. And in fact, it's not that because it actually creates more problems. And it's almost as if, all of these things perfectly coincide with an economy that is made or completely fabricated from GDP. Another link in the description below to an awesome video from another channel that I watch quite frequently. They are very pro-socialism, and I am very pro their channel. They talk about a lot of things in a real kind of common sense way. So I encourage you to watch their video, link in the description below. It's a newer video, so I'm pumped about that. But it exactly breaks down just how much the economy is nonsense and how we moved from gross national product to gross domestic product. And, the old Soviet Union used material production as opposed to GNP or GDP. And so there are different ways to indicate the health of a made up economy. And one of those ways is to absolutely, at some point, just fraudulently, continue to make things up. And so I almost feel as if we are currently living in a world that has no fundamental knowledge and or understanding of how the monetary system works, moreover what the economy is and how that impacts us. But all of those things do, and for real no good reason other than the benefit of just a handful of people who continue to make the place that we all live in kind of like hell, except we're like conscious and it's not the afterlife so far as we know. And it's almost as if like an unwarranted punishment for the rest of us as it concerns, the economy is not an indicator of how you are doing at home. It is not an indicator of how many actual jobs are available, and moreover, those jobs and how little they pay, and how minimum wage hasn't been raised in 4 decades. And a minimum wage in and of itself is a classist way to break down a reasoning for you to work harder to get something you'll never have. So as long as the opportunity for one to grow is there, even if it's misleading and absolutely just false on so many different levels, is what allows this kind of behavior to perpetuate itself. Because if we're all led to believe that at some point we might get our opportunity to make more money, and if we work hard enough, we can free ourselves from the confines of minimum wage. If you're making minimum wage, you're simply not working hard enough. You need to work harder, and for who knows how long, until I say so. When I feel like you've worked hard enough, you can then get promoted and then do less and make fun of everyone else that has to do more and makes a whole lot less than you. And you can then tell them that they gotta wait till they have their shot to make a little bit more. It's just a vicious cycle. And it is, again, fundamentally wrong. There are people in the world who have everything, and there are people in this world who do not. There are people who have things, and there are people who do not. That is the way the world currently is. There's no middle class, there's no room for growth, there's no prospects, and in fact, things continue to get worse. It's almost as if capitalists know their time is coming to an end, and so they're just trying to take everything and as many things as they can before the inevitable happens. And the inevitable thing that must happen is an understanding that what we're doing is wrong, right? First of all, we have to address the problem that we've created. And we have to understand that the problem that we've created cannot be solved by making more fake money and letting other people control what they think is important as it concerns the economy. If anything, the economy should reflect the goods and services provided within a country on a reasonable scale, not some sort of accounting backdoor backwoods trick as it concerns, the economy looking good, but every time we walk out into the real world, nobody has a job. The people that do make very little money and have to work very hard and are gaslit into behaving that way because if they don't, then somebody else is in line literally waiting, begging, groveling to take that very same low level opportunity. Now, what kind of a world is that? I'm just thinking out loud and I'm thinking to myself that it's not a very good world. Like, as it concerns an economy under a capitalism ideology. And again, I gotta say that, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I really feel like capitalists for the next 10 to 15 years are going to do their absolute best as it concerns draining what is left of actual capital and the actual things that have intrinsic value. And I really feel like this is a concern for all of us. Wealth hoarding and the subsequent knowledge that, things are going to rapidly change in a favor that's not likely to be in yours. And so you're doing the famous roll, like rug pull, but like it impacts everybody, like so much so. I don't understand. So much so that it could potentially shake the core of the sustainability and the stability of our own government. And if there's anything that we have to hold as an intrinsic value piece for us, it's our government. It's the intactness of what our government should be able to do and to provide its constituents with. And moreover, what it must do if it wants to continue the kind of experiment. I'm a social capitalist myself, and I encourage you guys to look up more into that particular field of political ideology, and so I'm just saying that like the economy and microplastics don't make a person feel very good about living in a world that cares so little about what's really important. And what's important is your health, and what's important is having an opportunity to live a good life. And if that means accepting monopoly money to do that, fine. But you gotta have enough monopoly money to do that, and the people that make the monopoly money can't keep all the monopoly money for themselves because then there's no monopoly money for the rest of us to play with, and that's like literally a thing, And so we gotta be careful. And I feel like if we're not careful, people are going to take advantage, as they always do, as it always appears to be the truth as it concerns large scale government operations and the nefarious, ever reaching hands of, evil perpetrators who knowingly do all of these very things that we talked about. It's not like anyone is, blinded to the truth. We all know the truth. And I really feel like that's important. We gotta understand that, follow the light, go towards the truth. Who cares where it takes you? At least it'll be in a place that's not rooted in evil. I mean, right? I don't know. That's how I feel about it. So I hope that you guys have a really good night. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to watch my video. My name is Albert. This is Vlogs About Nothing. If you're not already a subscriber, consider smashing the subscribe button, you feel me, with your thumb or your index finger, or however you do that. You know what I mean? Just make sure that you do it. I really appreciate being in your life. and having this opportunity. So until next time, have a really good night. Bye.